I never imagined my peaceful suburban life would erupt into chaos when the HOA set my barn ablaze with a flamethrower, unknowingly igniting a war with a government detective armed with federal resources. How far would I go to unravel the dark conspiracy lurking beneath our neighborhood's pristine lawns? A sharp, insistent knocking snapped me out of sleep, not the friendly kind, but the type that signals trouble. Groggy from a late night poring over a government fraud case, I grabbed my robe and shuffled to the door. When I opened it, Margaret Reynolds stood there, her lips pursed like she'd just tasted something sour, clutching a massive clipboard like a shield. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," she said, her tone anything but warm. "I'm here on official Maple Grove HOA business." Rubbing my eyes, I recognized the threat immediately. After 3 years in this neighborhood, I knew Margaret wasn't just any resident. She ruled Maple Grove with a velvet-gloved iron fist. "What can I help you with?" I kept my voice steady, a skill honed from 15 years investigating financial crimes. She jabbed a manicured finger toward my backyard. "That barn of yours violates Section 7.3 of our community guidelines on acceptable structures." My grandfather's barn had stood for 67 years, grandfathered into the property when developers turned the surrounding farmland into Maple Grove. I'd explained this to Margaret twice before. "We've been over this," I said calmly. "The barn's protected by the original deed." She flipped through her clipboard. The board reconsidered. "That clause applied only to the original owner, not you." This was nonsense. I'd reviewed every document with my lawyer before buying. "I have paperwork proving otherwise," I replied. "Paperwork can be wrong," she snapped. "You've ignored 3 warnings already." That was news to me. No warnings had ever reached my mailbox. Her eyes narrowed. "Maybe if you weren't so busy with your job, you'd check your mail." The way she sneered "job" set my instincts buzzing. Most neighbors assumed I was a desk jockey. Only a few knew I tracked financial criminals for the Treasury Department. "The barn stays, Margaret. I have legal proof." Her smile was icy. "You've got 72 hours to tear it down, or the HOA will handle it." We've been patient. Across the street, her husband, Henry, watched us, his face a blank mask, hands in his pockets, standing still as a statue on their flawless lawn. Something felt off. "I'll need to see those warnings," I said. "Check your files," she retorted. "The decision's final." As she marched off, my elderly neighbor, Clara Brooks, waved from her garden. Once Margaret was out of earshot, Clara scurried over, shears in hand. "I overheard," she whispered. "Watch out for her." Last month, the Petersons refused to remove their basketball hoop. 2 days later, their tires were slashed. No proof, of course. "Thanks for the heads up," I said, watching Margaret's rigid figure retreat to where Henry waited, still staring. Inside, I called my lawyer, Tom Hayes. "This is troubling, Daniel," he said after I explained. "The grandfather clause is airtight. They can't force this legally." "Then why now?" I asked. "Hard to say. Have you ticked off the HOA lately?" "Nothing unusual. I've been away on a case for 3 weeks, got back yesterday." "Interesting timing," Tom noted. "Send me those warnings if you find them. And install cameras around the barn. Document everything." I sifted through 3 weeks of mail, no warnings. Either Margaret was lying, or someone had intercepted them. That afternoon, I set up security cameras around the barn and front door. While mounting the last one, I caught Henry watching from their upstairs window, his gaze unyielding. That night, an email from Margaret arrived, attached with a final warning, lacking the HOA attorney's signature. Before I could reply, my phone rang. My Treasury supervisor, Director Evans. "Daniel, we've got a problem," he said. "Someone's poking into your case files with outdated credentials." My pulse quickened. I'd been investigating a money laundering scheme tied to real estate across 3 counties. "Any guesses who?" I asked, glancing at the Reynolds house, now lit up. "Not yet," he said. "But watch your back." I headed to the barn, where I kept case backups in a small office. The padlock hung open. Drawing my off-duty weapon, I eased the door ajar. Everything seemed intact, until I spotted a blinking red light behind some hay bales. A small device with an antenna. A tracker? A bug? As I reached for it, headlights swept the driveway. Through the window, I saw Henry step out of his car, alone, looking nervous as he approached my door. What did he want at 10 p.m.? And why did he seem scared, not blank-faced. Pocketing the device, I moved to confront him, unsure if I was facing a threat or a breakthrough. Flames roared into the night, painting the sky a furious orange. I bolted across my yard in pajamas, barefoot, the heat searing my face. "Stop! What are you doing?" My grandfather's barn was an inferno. 3 silhouettes stood against the blaze: Margaret Reynolds, her lackey Paul Carter, and HOA treasurer Lisa Grayson. Paul wielded a souped-up weed torch. "Call 911. I yelled toward Clara's house. She'd woken me minutes ago, banging on my door at 2 a.m. "They're burning your barn," she'd gasped, trembling in her nightgown. Facing the trio, rage erupted inside me. This wasn't just vandalism, it was war. "What have you done?" I demanded. Margaret turned, her face glowing with smug satisfaction. "Oh, look who's awake. This is what happens when you defy the HOA, detective." I froze. I'd never revealed my real job here. "Surprised?" Paul chuckled, firelight glinting off his glasses. "We know who you are and what you do. Does your agency know about your side hustle?" "Side hustle?" I had no clue what he meant. "You're committing arson," I said, my training taking over. "A felony. Police are coming." "Are they?" Lisa checked her watch. "I called them 20 minutes ago about your dangerous fire. Odd they're not here. They were framing me." "Why?" Clara shouted. "Fire department's on the way." Margaret's smile slipped. "We should go," she muttered. As they turned, I grabbed Paul's arm. "Why?" Fear flashed in his eyes. "You should have sold when we offered last year. Too late now." "What offer?" He yanked free. "Ask your agent." The barn's roof collapsed, sparks flying. My case files were inside. Sirens wailed as the trio strolled off. "You won't get away with this." I called. Margaret smirked. "We already have. Check your email. HOA records show your fire code violations. We tried to stop you, but too late." Firefighters arrived, too late to save the barn. "How'd it start?" the captain asked. 3 HOA members did this. I have a witness." He frowned. "We got reports you were burning trash illegally." "That's a lie." Clara woke me up. I rushed to her. "Tell them what you saw." Her eyes darted. "I just saw the fire from my window. I didn't see how it started." "But you said—" "I was confused," she mumbled, avoiding my gaze. The officer held up fake HOA warnings. "We'll investigate, but no evidence backs your story." Henry watched from across the street, looking troubled, then slipped away. By dawn, the barn was ash. Sifting through rubble, I heard Clara behind me. "Why'd you lie?" "They threatened my grandson," she whispered. "Paul said if I talked, Tyler's scholarship would vanish." "How?" "Margaret's brother's on the university board." "There's more," she added. "The Coopers' shed burned last year after they fought the HOA. No accident." "Why me?" She froze, staring past me. Henry approached, hands in pockets. "Go, Clara," I said. She fled. "I'm sorry about your barn," Henry said softly. "Your wife did this." He flinched. "I know." He handed me a USB drive. "I took this from your barn office yesterday. You broke in." "To save it." "Margaret would have destroyed it." "Why help me?" "I can't stop her anymore." "Maybe you can. It's not about the barn. Look under it." He walked off, leaving me with a mystery. Smoke burned my eyes as firefighters doused the last flames. Margaret, pristine in designer shoes, told the chief it was his illegal burn pit. "We warned him." He nodded, handing me a citation. "You did this." I shouted. "Wild claims, detective," she sneered. "Stress makes people crazy." How did she know my job? Alone with the ruins, I found a melted metal case in the ashes. Inside, a flash drive labeled Maple Grove Finances and a note: "Not safe. Trust no one." "Hope that survived," Clara said, startling me. "You put this here?" 3 days ago. "I'm FBI Financial Crimes, Daniel. We've watched Maple Grove for 8 months." I laughed bitterly. "A suburb run by garden tyrants." She gripped my wrist. "The HOA collects $500,000 yearly. Where's it go?" "Shell companies, laundering." "The barn wasn't random," she said. "Margaret knows who you are. Someone leaked it." My phone buzzed. My supervisor. "Credentials suspended." "Report now." "They're framing you," Clara said. "There's a mole in your agency." She showed me a folder. Residents who questioned Margaret faced accidents. Headlights approached. A black SUV with government plates. "Not your backup?" "No," Clara paled. "Run." We fled into the woods as armed men emerged, scanning the trees. Hiding, she whispered. Margaret's real name is Elena Volkov, Russian intel, dormant since '08. HOAs are perfect covers. Control, surveillance, finds no one questions. The flash drive revealed millions funneled through Maple Grove to defense contractors. They're buying secrets, I realized, and targeting people like me. Gunshots shattered Clara's window. We hit the floor as bullets tore through. They want us dead, I yelled. Clara grabbed her gun. Take Lisa out back. Meet at the old mill. She fired, covering us. I pulled Lisa, the new HOA member who'd sought us out, through the garage. A thug grabbed her. I cracked his skull with my flashlight. We reached her car and sped off, flames rising behind us. Where's this mill? Lisa asked. No idea, I said. She's buying us time. I played a recording of Margaret ordering the attack. We need more. HOA records at the community center. Break in now. Lisa balked. Your brother died for this, I said. What did he find? Property transfers near military bases, she whispered. They're watching strategic sites. At the center, I picked the lock. Margaret and Henry argued inside about fleeing with backup drives. I recorded as they revealed maps of military sites. A creak betrayed me. Security. Henry called. Sirens neared. Forget it, Margaret snapped, grabbing drives. I burst in, gun raised. Hands up. Henry triggered a device, wiping the computers. Evidence gone, Margaret taunted. Clara stormed in, bleeding, FBI badge aloft. On the ground. Margaret laughed. We own your office. Not anymore, Clara shot back. Paul crashed through, shooting. Clara tackled Margaret. Henry fled with a laptop. I chased him to the pool, tackling him as it sank. You ruined everything, he raged. The laptop died in the water. Police swarmed. Clara held up a USB, Margaret's backup. Raids followed, exposing a vast conspiracy. Margaret and Henry clammed up, but Paul confessed. Lisa identified her brother's killers. My boss apologized, lifting my suspension. A month later, I stood by my Barnes Foundation, now a neighborhood workshop site. Clara grinned. Most spies use tech. An HOA? Genius. Who suspects the lawn police? I said. We laughed. Neighbors now united beyond rules. As a block party bloomed where Margaret's house once stood. Fighting for home wasn't just about a barn. It was about saving a community from those who'd claimed to guard it.